So after I made my last video, I realized I didn't explain how to use the processor we made. Just for if you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend you do. It's a tutorial on how to do team prop detection, but I really went into depth of what every step does, so it's very applicable for the future. So now I'm just going to make a class called auto.java, right? And this is just going to be an op mode or maybe a linear op mode because most people code their autonomous in linear op modes. Do the implement. And so I'm going to quickly go over how we can actually use it. Use the prop processor. So first, we're gonna have, an instance of it, a team. So we're gonna have team prop processor, and I'm just gonna call this processor. It's probably bad practice. It's a very generic name, but in this case, it's kind of whatever. And I'm gonna put a wait for start here. Cool. So in init, we're gonna create our processor by doing processor is equal to new team prop processor. Right. This is creating an instance or an object of the class. And so now we have the processor, but as we kind of talked about in the other video, what actually handles all the passing in information and stuff is the portal, the vision portal. So now we're gonna make a vision portal. I'm just gonna call portal. And if you do portal is equal to, you're gonna do, you can do vision portal dot easy create with defaults, okay? And you're gonna this will ask you to pass in some things like the name of the camera, the processors, and then it'll just assume a bunch of other stuff. But I wouldn't really recommend this because you want as much control as you can get. What you actually want to do here is do a new vision portal builder. And builders are just like a way we structure code so you can add certain things. So like every time here, for example, like add or enable live view, you don't necessarily have to set this true or false every time. Sometimes you can just leave it as the default. And so this is an optional thing that you do for before you do the dot build, and the dot build is what returns the object with all these settings that you've added. So here we're going to do, I want to add the processor, obviously. Before that, let's set the camera. So this takes a camera name object. And here we can just do hardware map.get camera name.class. And by default, it's called webcam1 with a capital W and a space. So I'm just going to assume it's default. And that will set your camera. And next thing we're going to want to do is to set the camera resolution. This takes a size object with the height and width, and if you put in one that doesn't work for your camera, it'll have an error message on your driver hub saying like these are the supported resolutions for this camera, blah blah blah. The most common camera in my experience is the Logitech C270. It's what I use. A lot of people use it. And you almost never need high resolution, so like 640 by 480 works pretty well for me. Cool, so now this is all set up. We have our vision portal, which gets, images from our camera in the size 640 by 480, and then sends them to this processor that we have. And with just this, in the wait for start, we could say, our prop location is processor dot get prop location, right? Because last time we set it up, every time it gets a new frame, it'll update the variable prop location, and then we use this getter to return that outside that class. So with this, we could just do a simple if statement, like if prop location is equal to left, or you could do a switch if you prefer those, right? Switch prop location, and then you have all your cases. So this is how we could use it in autonomous, but I will quickly go over the different settings here that are available in the Vision Portal Builder, just to shed some light on what they do. So we've gone over, I'm just going to go in order in the order they show up here. Enable live view. Live view is just on the driver hub, you click the three dots and in it, you see camera stream. That's what live view is. By default, this will be true. You can set it false, because you're in matches, in competition. It doesn't really matter if you can see it or not, so it just saves some processing, whatever. It's not the most important thing in the world to turn it off. It really doesn't change much. We've gone over set camera resolution, set camera, set auto stop live view. That just means it's in the name, it'll automatically stop. Set live view container ID. This isn't really important unless you have multiple cameras, but if you're doing that, it's outside the scope of this video. Set stream format. So this, you have MPEG, MJPEG, and YUY2. These are just different encoding formats for video, or photos. I can't remember which one actually. And they have different trade-offs with like how much data they lose when transmitted, how much space they take in terms of like bytes and whatever. You won't notice a huge difference. It won't really matter, so I would just leave this default, honestly. And FTC has a page about that, and I'll link it in the description if you are interested. And I think that is all the functions available here. Okay, actually one more. If we had multiple processors, right, we can add multiple at the same time. Processor, oops. We can add processor, and let's say we had, for whatever reason, processor 2. We can add both of them at the same time. And one more thing is, after you've created your portal, you get access to a whole bunch of other functions, right? You have set processor enabled. If you only add one, by default, that's enabled. If you add more than one, I believe they are all enabled by default, but I could be wrong. So, for example, if you had something to do with April tags and your team prop processor, right? Maybe processor 2 does April tag stuff, right? So maybe right at the beginning in init, we only want to enable the team prop detection and not the April tag stuff yet, right? So we could do set processor enabled true, set processor 2 enabled false. What else do we have here? You can stop streaming, stop live view. Stop streaming is like stop sending frames to the processor. Stop live view is stopping the thing you can see on the driver hub. Close is pretty self-explanatory. Resume streaming. Get active camera. Get FPS. And so most of these are pretty self-explanatory, so I won't really talk about them. But yeah, so this is how we can use this processor that we made.